Hello and welcome to the DSR Daily. I'm your host for today, this Monday, December 2nd. Thank you for waiting for us after this long weekend. I hope your Thanksgiving was peaceful without any arguing with the family. Minna, how was yours?
It was fabulous, very restful, good to be with family. I can't believe it's December. This year's flying by.
Yeah, I know.
I feel like we've been moving in warp speed since the election.
Yeah, and it now feels like December, at least here in DC, because it has gotten pretty cold.
Mm-hmm.
But and now it feels kind of festive. The Christmas markets are up.
Mm-hmm.
It's time to
Yeah, that's
celebrate the
nice.
season.
I enjoy that.
But we don't have very festive news today, I fear. So why don't you get us started, Minna?
Yes, catch up on what we missed over the nice break. Donald Trump's nomination of Kash Patel for FBI director has sparked controversy, with critics, including former officials like John Bolton, warning that Patel is dangerously unqualified and loyal only to Trump. Some Republicans, including Senator Ted Cruz, support Patel, believing he will reform the FBI, while others, like Senator Mike Rounds, defend the current director. Democrats, led by Senator Chris Murphy and Majority Whip Dick Durbin, strongly oppose Patel, accusing him of politicizing the Justice Department to serve Trump's interests. Patel's confirmation faces a contentious Senate battle as Trump's nominees continue to draw significant scrutiny. Yeah, seems like every single nominee is facing a Senate battle for their confirmation. But this was very surprising. FBI directors serve a 10-year term, and incumbent presidents don't usually fire the sitting FBI director just because there's a change in administration. Mm-hmm. So this was kind of out of left field a little bit.
I disagree. I saw a lot of people kind of predicting that this would happen, and specifically throwing around Kash Patel as a name because he is a psycho. And
traditionally speaking, I mean, this doesn't usually happen.
Sure. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I mean, like Chris Murphy and Dick Durbin accusing him of politicizing the Justice Department to serve Trump's interests. That's the point. Yeah. Like, it's not really an accusation when that is kind of the express purpose for nominating this person. And yeah, he will reform the FBI. He'll reform it to be an organization more directly able to serve Trump's interests. And Kash Patel has said publicly before that he wants to mobilize the FBI to go after Trump's opponents. So, I mean, the plan is pretty clear.
Yeah.
There's not really much up for interpretation as to what they're trying to do.
Yeah. Unfortunately, a lot of transparency here.
Yeah. Well, President Joe Biden announced a full pardon for his son, Hunter Biden, reversing earlier commitments to stay uninvolved in his legal matters. Hunter had pleaded guilty to tax violations and was convicted on firearms-related charges stemming from actions during his struggle with addiction. Hunter has been sober for over 5 years, expressed gratitude for the clemency, acknowledging his past mistakes and pledging to support others battling addiction. Republicans criticized the pardon, accusing Biden of bias and corruption, while the president defended his decision as an act of justice against what he perceived as politically motivated attacks, asserting that his son's cases were handled differently than similar offenses. Biden framed the pardon as a balance between his belief in the justice system and the duty of a father and a leader to confront perceived miscarriages of justice. I don't really know how I feel about this. I'm not going to lie.
I mean, speaking of news that's unsurprising, we all knew as soon as the election was over, Biden was going to pardon Hunter.
On one hand, yes. I mean, it's beyond a shadow of a doubt that Hunter was treated differently than others in with similar charges on account of being Joe Biden's son. So I think that is pretty much undeniable. But I don't necessarily love the optics of a father pardoning his son. But, I kind of see both ways. I don't really have a strong reaction to this, to be honest. Partially because I don't super care, because Biden is the outgoing president and it doesn't really matter.
Mm-hmm. Now, what would be interesting is if he did a future pardon for someone like Nancy Pelosi or Kamala Harris or like one of Trump's opponents. Which has never been done before. And I've seen some speculation that might happen, although I doubt it. But it would be interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
More interesting than Hunter Biden's pardon. No offense to Hunter Biden. Shifting the focus a little bit overseas, Iran has strongly supported Syria's government after insurgents seized control of Aleppo and surrounding areas. The Iranian foreign minister declared that Syria's army would defeat the, quote, terrorist group as it had in the past, and Russia and Syria responded with airstrikes on rebel-held areas. The fighting, which has resulted in hundreds of fatalities, has worsened Syria's already dire humanitarian crisis. Meanwhile, the conflict highlights the complex web of foreign interventions, with the U.S. opposing the Syrian president and supporting Kurdish forces, while Iran and Russia back the Syrian regime to maintain regional influence.
Yeah, I mean, Syria has been a proxy for conflict between Russia and the U.S., and then different proxies for well over a decade now, even longer. So this is kind of just the latest in a long string of these skirmishes, fights breaking out, and it's been to disastrous effect for the people of Syria. But, it has kind of, it's one of those conflicts that has kind of faded into becoming background noise because it's been going on for so long, which is very sad because, again, it's been absolutely disastrous for the people of Syria. And we need to here in the U.S., be more aware of these kind of different conflicts going on, especially when it is of direct interest to the U.S. And, make sure that we don't kind of let these things slip into the background.
For sure.
California Governor Gavin Newsom and state lawmakers will convene a special session to prepare for potential legal and political conflicts with the incoming Trump administration, aiming to safeguard progressive state policies. Newsom is seeking additional funding for the Attorney General's office to bolster legal defenses on issues like immigration, environmental regulations, and abortion access. The state, which sued the first Trump administration over 120 times, is bracing for challenges, including mass deportations and federal rollbacks of climate and health initiatives. While Newsom has proposed measures like restoring electric vehicle rebates and creating a disaster relief fund, critics, including Republican lawmakers, argue that California should work collaboratively with the Trump administration instead of pursuing costly litigation. With a projected $2 billion budget deficit, Democrats view this proactive resistance as a necessary investment to protect California's policies and values. Good. It's important to kind of flex those state rights, which Republicans seem to believe in so much when there's a Democrat in office. And reduce the damage as much as possible. As for the kind of argument of maybe they're too litigious against the Trump administration, those resources could be spent elsewhere. I'd leave that to others better equipped to analyze the veracity of that claim. But I'm glad that Newsom is kind of keeping up this fight and doing what he can to protect the people of California. Clearly, also, he's gearing up for a run in 2028.
Yes,
which is another matter. And we can crow about how that's not a good idea down the line, but I refuse to talk about 2028 just yet.
Well, but he also runs a state that has a lot of cities that have been doing that have been very concerned and have a lot of organizations that are doing things to try to protect the immigrants who live there, like in Los Angeles, for example, like really afraid of mass deportation and the effect that it would have on the communities. And I think that every state should be doing that to protect their citizens.
100%. Yeah, I wish every governor, and I know that in other blue states they've kind of talked about this as well, but I think California has kind of had the most concrete, direct plan of attack in terms of countering Trump's influence. But I know that other blue states are kind of having similar conversations and convening similar sessions to do this. So I think it's good. We'll see how effective that can be.
Yeah. Well, looking ahead a little bit, the U.S. Supreme Court will soon decide on a Tennessee law that restricts transition-related healthcare for minors, a case that could have significant implications for transgender care nationwide. Legal experts are concerned the court's ruling could not only affect minors, but also adults, especially if it rules that such restrictions do not constitute sex discrimination under the Equal Protection Clause. The law, which prohibits puberty blockers, hormone therapy, and surgeries for gender dysphoria in minors, has prompted lawsuits from the ACLU and other organizations, while the U.S. Department of Justice has argued it violates constitutional rights. The outcome of the case is critical as it could lead to a patchwork of laws across states, leaving many families to travel or relocate for care while also threatening health coverage under the Affordable Care Act for transgender individuals. So this is obviously an upcoming case. We will keep you posted on the outcome, but I think it's good to know what cases are coming before the Supreme Court, and this is a huge one that could affect a lot of people who are nervous that something like this is going to happen. So we're inching closer to a decision there.
My prediction is whether this state or whether this case is decided on or not, one way or the other, this is going to happen during the Trump administration. I think it's no secret that trans people are going to be the first group that have their rights completely rolled back by the Trump administration. It's been the Republican Party's rhetoric this election cycle, especially of anti-trans, despite the fact that this is an incredibly small portion of the population that is already faces discrimination, high suicide rates, and other issues. So it is really, punching down as much as you possibly can on a very, I cannot think of the word, a very at-risk group. And it's disgusting because these people should just be allowed to live as they want to. What does it matter to anybody else?
Yeah.
For some reason, people really care about trans people in sports. I'm not one of those people. I don't give a shit. But, it's that and the bathroom issue to me are just two kind of silly issues that it's affecting such a small group of people. And it's the Republicans have kind of made that a plank of their platform, these two issues that are so minor.
Well, it's like Sarah McBride. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, Sarah McBride is a great example. Go on.
Yeah, it's like Sarah McBride said when she was dealing with and continues to deal with all of the issues in Congress about her using the bathroom. And she said that Republicans were using this as a distraction from the real issues. And she's 100% right. They're definitely using hate and fear to distract people from the things that really matter. And it's gross and disgusting that they would use hate against a really vulnerable community to distract from real important issues that affect everybody.
And that's Sarah McBride's case is like the perfect example of this because it's Republican lawmakers taking time when they could be doing literally anything else to write a bill, write policy that targets one member out of a body of 435 people. And that's, that's the perfect right. Analog for the entire trans community across the U.S. These laws are being written to target these people. And it's why, beyond stirring up hate, because you can run on it. It's gross, and it's disgusting, and it's not going to go away. Unfortunately, it's frankly going to get worse. No matter what way the Supreme Court decides on this case. Well, on that note, unfortunately, not a good story to end on, Minna. I blame you.
Sorry.
But hopefully there will be better news for the rest of the week. And if there is, you'll hear about it right here on the DSR Daily, because we will be back every day this week, back to a full schedule. So please join us for those. Join us for every other show we have coming out across the DSR network for the rest of the week. And until we see you again, bye-bye.